Hello everybody, this is the Atheist Apple here, and this is the Atheist Apple Radio. This is our first broadcast. It's going in live, although I suppose it won't exactly be live after it's been uploaded, but with as little editing as possible. So, what we're going to be doing today on Atheist Apple Radio is we're going to be looking at a list of the top 10 things that Christians have said to atheists that will do nothing more than just piss atheists off to their limit. This is a list of 10 things that Christians will say to atheists, and atheists just get pissed off about these things because they're just so ridiculous. Either they're ridiculous or they're just so stupid. So we'll begin here we'll be counting down from number 10. So number 10. Atheists have no morals or any moral basis. Now, there are a lot of Christians out there who have said that not only to me, but to just atheism in general. They think that atheists have no morals or any moral basis. They think that God is needed to give them morals. But, what, are you kidding? This is just simply not true. No religion or any holy text, and we're not just talking about Christianity here, but we're talking about all religions. No religion or holy text is required to gain morals. I mean, there are very bad morals in the Bible, if you're talking about that specifically. I mean, you have passages in there which say to kill your neighbor if he works on Sunday. Of course, the most common response to this is, well, you're taking it out of context. To which my response would be, what about all the people who quote all the good Bible verses, like love your neighbor as yourself? Aren't they taking that out of context? And, I mean, whether or not it is out of context, God still said it. And if God said it at all, to me, that's just not loving. That's not a God that I would want to worship. It doesn't matter what the context of it all is. I would not want to worship a God that says that at all. Now, in addition, if you take a look at the statistics of atheist-populated areas, I think Norway is the country. It has, it's doing so much better than the United States. They're just, in every possible way, there are lower teen pregnancies, there are lower rape rates, lower crime rates in general, lower murder rates, lower STD infection rates, and the population of Norway is mostly atheist. I think it's about 70% or something like that. And this is just one of the things that Christians and religious people just love to ignore. Number 9. Do you really think we came from monkeys? Now, of course, any atheist can tell you that, evolution is in no way correlated to atheism, even though the majority of atheists out there do accept evolution as a fact, because it is a fact. Atheism has nothing to do with evolution. Even if evolution were to be disproven and somebody were to get a Nobel Prize for disproving evolution, it would in no way validate religion. It would just mean that it would in no way mean that magic is less bullshit than it is right now. And in terms of coming from monkeys, evolution never said that we came from monkeys, and it never has. What these religious people need to do is educate themselves about evolution. Right now they just think that it says all these ridiculous things. Oh, we came from monkeys and all this bullshit. But that's not what it says. The fact of the matter is humans and monkeys came from a common ancestor. And that's all. They just twist these facts to make it sound stupid. And then they've actually convinced themselves that evolution does state that we've come from monkeys. And that's why they don't accept evolution as fact, because they've been taught this bullshit about it. Number 8, where did the universe come from if God doesn't exist? And this is, of course, God of the Gaps arguing. Any atheist can tell you what God of the Gaps is. And the answer to that question is, well, we don't know. Is that not satisfying to you? Uncertainty is the most valid position in anything. Not knowing is better than holding a bullshit answer involving magic, in my opinion. Back to God of the Gaps, just because we don't know yet, or just because science lacks a current cohesive answer to this question, that doesn't mean that we should fill those gaps with God or magic. like I said, it's better to have no answer than a bullshit answer. Science just doesn't know yet. And it's the same deal right now with abiogenesis, and the same deal with many things. How the Earth came into formation is one of them, even though we do have a clearer picture on that than we do at the beginning of the universe. Number 7, this is a fun one. Hitler was an atheist, and Stalin was an atheist. So what they're trying to do here is they're trying to put a bad image on atheism by saying that Hitler and Stalin were both atheists. Now, Stalin was an atheist, yes. Hitler was not an atheist. It's just not true. Hitler was in fact very religious, and he repented atheism. The notion that Hitler was an atheist is just a bunch of made-up bullshit to try and stick a bad image on atheism. When one theist came along and said, who's about the worst person I can think of? Oh, Hitler. Well, I'll call him an atheist. That'll put a bad image on atheism. All these other people are so gullible that they'll believe that God exists. They'll believe that Hitler was an atheist, too. I mean, even if Hitler was atheist, it doesn't compare to all the terrible things religion has been responsible for. Religion's been responsible for 9/11, the Crusades, the jihads, the burning witches at the stake. Almost all wars, or religious wars in that case. And then we move on to Stalin. Yes, Stalin was an atheist, but why should his non-belief correlate to any of the terrible things that he did? Even if Hitler was an atheist, I don't think his atheism would have been responsible for killing the Jews. Why the Jews? Why not every religious person ever? If Hitler was truly atheist and wanted to create an atheist nation, he would probably target more religions than just Judaism. And even then, Hitler wasn't an atheist. Number 6. How can you believe in aliens, but not God? Now, this is an interesting question, but here's the thing. There is evidence that the belief in other life in the universe is actually plausible. We have reason to believe that there is we have reason to believe that there may be life somewhere else in the universe. We have seen planets on which conditions seem to be the same here on Earth. Of course, we might not know if any other forms of life will have adapted differently than us, therefore require different conditions than us. But the fact is, there is better credibility to the belief that there is life in the universe than there is the belief that there is a magical God who created everything. And if life evolved here on Earth, it could be extremely plausible that it evolved on other planets as well. The universe is so vast and so big. It seems kind of selfish for Christians to think that it was all for them. That God's favorite planet is Earth, and God's favorite star is the sun. God's favorite star system is the solar system. God's favorite galaxy is the Milky Way. God's favorite universe, if the multiverse theory is true, is the one that we're living in right now. It's very selfish. And I think that if we find out at some point that there is other life on other planets, it would kind of change our views on Christianity, because Christianity seems to focus around us, where it believes that we are the only creatures in the universe and that it's all made just for us. Number 5, what if you're wrong? This is just one of the most frequent questions that I have been asked, and it's a sad question too, and it's Pascal's wager. And what I always say to them is, well, what if you're wrong? I mean, there are tons of other religions out there. There are over 500 gods. There are actually over thousands of gods that humans have created over the ages, and there are an infinite number of gods that could be possible. What if you're wrong about Allah? What if Allah is the true God, and because you reject him, you're going to be going to Muslim hell? The problem with Pascal's wager is that it assumes that there are only 2 possible outcomes, either A, the Christian God exists, or B, the Christian God doesn't exist. Maybe, perhaps, the Christian God does exist, but he does not send atheists to hell. But see, if what you say is true, if God does send atheists to hell just because he doesn't believe, just because the atheists don't believe in God, of which God put no evidence on earth. It's almost like God wanted us to not believe in him. Then, in that case, God would just be insecure and insensitive and self-centered to the point where it's just ridiculous. I would happily burn in hell knowing that I was morally superior to a God. And it's the same problem with Abraham and Isaac in the Bible. If God asked me to kill one of my children, I would say no. I would not kill one of my children. I would happily go burn in hell, knowing that I was morally superior to a God. I would not want to worship any God that tells me to kill another human being, because, to me, that is immoral. To the majority of people in the world, that is immoral. And it's not immoral because a God has written it on our hearts or anything like that. It's all evolutionary psychology. Number 4, you have to have faith that we came from nowhere. They say, well, atheism requires as much faith because they have to believe that we came from nowhere. But, see, the problem is that no atheist has ever said that we came from nowhere. I mean, we may have come from nowhere. We don't know. Once again, it's one of those questions that we just don't know the answer to yet. We may know the answer. We may never know the answer, but that doesn't automatically imply a God. And you don't have to have faith in science. Science, it's evidence-based. It's not faith-based. The whole point of science is so that you don't have to use faith. I mean, sure, you do have to have little bits of faith here and there, but it's not blind faith that a whole magical land exists and that God exists and all of this. I mean, right now I have faith that I'm not currently a brain in a vat, but I have good reasoning for why I do not think I'm a brain in a vat. I trust my 5 senses on their continued reliability of producing effective results. But if it turns out they're not producing effective results, then I can't do anything about that. I'm just going to keep living my way, living the way that my senses tell me that I should live. And that my logic and reasoning tells me that I should live. Now, in terms of coming from nowhere, obviously the answer is we just don't know. We're still working on abiogenesis. Anyway, number 3, never mind, number 3, atheism is a religion. Now, people say that atheism is a religion. I think that the only reason they say that is to try and just, this is kind of a last resort thing, if you will. They feel that they have been beaten, maybe. But atheism is a religion just like off is a TV channel, or like not collecting stamps as a hobby. Religion is defined as the belief in a supernatural or higher power than yourself, and atheism is not that. It's precisely not that. Atheism is the lack of belief and the lack of religion. The lack of religion, the last time I checked, is not a religion. Just like science isn't a religion. There's plenty of theists out there who claim that science is a religion. Number 2, do you think that life is just meaningless? Now, asking for the meaning of life is just a stupid question, and it's stupid. It doesn't deserve to be answered, because you shouldn't even try to answer it. It's just ridiculous. Instead, you should ask, what can I do in my life to give it meaning, or to give the time that I have here on Earth meaning? Because, I mean, yeah, in the long run, in a few billion years or so, when the Earth no longer exists, and everything that humans have ever done will have been forgotten in the natural world, then, yeah, life will be meaningless. But it's not about the future, it's about right now. Sure, our life is meaningless in the long run, but that does not mean that we shouldn't try to make our lives worth something right now, because all Christians are doing is just worrying about the future and what's going to happen in the future. But all of that worrying will have been for nothing if it turns out that there is no heaven. And number 1, this is the question that I just absolutely hate the most, and I have been asked, and I have been told this by so many Christians, and I always just get so pissed off whenever I hear this. It's, why do atheists persecute Christians so much? Why won't atheists leave Christians alone? Why are atheists always diminishing Christians? That sort of thing. And now there is no question that pisses me off more than this. What Christians are trying to do here is they are trying to put make us the bad. They're trying to make atheists the bad people. They're trying to make it. I mean, yes, there are some atheists out there who try and tell Christians that what they're doing is irrational and illogical. Which, I mean, yes, I can understand that. Of course, we want to keep religion out of the things that are important. We want to, keep the church and the state separate. Because, if all we're going to be taught is that God created people, I mean, we're not going to advance scientifically at all. In terms of persecution, though, if Christians are going to make claims that they are being persecuted by atheists, then what they need to do is they need to wait until atheists make up the better part of the population, aren't considered the least trustworthy group, and aren't considered to have the same moral standards as rapists. Yes, believe it or not, it was on a recent article. Atheists are considered to have the same moral standards as rapists, and they are considered the least trustworthy group out of all. Somewhere around the Islamic terrorists is where atheists have been put on the moral level. I mean, try being atheist for a day, where you have to keep your mouth shut just to avoid losing your job and being rejected by your family and friends, because people are that, I guess you could say, militant towards atheism. They do not like atheism, and you will lose your job if you talk to the wrong people. You will lose your family and your friends if they're not accepting of atheism, and there are not a lot of people out there, trust me, that are accepting of atheism. They have absolutely no right to bitch about persecution until they realize just how much more severe atheists have it than they do. And of course, there's nothing more that pisses me off than when Christians say that they're being persecuted by atheists, because it's precisely just the opposite. I mean, there are so many things that they're ignorant about and arrogant about, and then they try to say exactly what we're saying to them back to us. We say, well, you need faith to believe this. Well, they say, oh no, you need faith to believe this. We say, you're persecuting us. Oh no, you're persecuting us. They're trying to open a two-way door here. They're trying to take our arguments and pin them back on us, but it just fails miserably. It does. We say to them, oh, Christianity is a religion, and there's lots of other religions out there will say, well, atheism is a religion, and of course that's just a failed attempt to try and make atheists look stupid. We say, well, you have to have faith that a God exists, and because there's no evidence, and they say, well, you have to have faith that we came from nowhere, which is just ridiculous. And then, I could basically go back through this entire list. Almost everything on my list is an attempt for Christians to persecute atheists in the same way that atheists have argued against Christianity. They say, well, religion has been responsible for, all these terrible things. Well, they say, well, atheism was responsible for Hitler, which is, of course, just not true and just ridiculous. And there's just so many problems here. And this is just a list of 10 things that Christians will say that will piss atheists off, and there's much more out there. But in the meantime, that is all for today's episode of Atheist Apple Radio. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe for periodic Atheist Apple refutes and more Atheist Apple Radio. In the meantime, I'm the Atheist Apple. Keep it fruity, everyone.